Good morning. Do you wash the dishes to have clean dishes, or do you wash the dishes to wash the dishes? Welcome to a little bit of Bear Wisdom with Booboo and Lou. I'm your host, Lou Lagan, mindset coach and mentor. Back to the dishes. Do you wash the dishes to have clean dishes, or do you wash the dishes to wash the dishes? This was a question posed by Thich Nhat Hanh, whose name I probably mispronounced dreadfully. And it's questioning our purpose, our presence when we're carrying out a task. Whatever that task is, even if it can be as simple as drinking a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, where are we? Often when I sit down to have a cuppa, that first mouthful of coffee in the morning, a really good cup of coffee in the morning, oh, bliss. But then something happens and we find ourselves either leaning forward into what we have to do during the day, and that task list starts creeping up in our minds, and oh, I've got to do this, this, and this. Or we find ourselves leaning back into things that have gone. I wish I hadn't done that, or I wish that had worked out a bit differently, perhaps if I'd done. And then pick up the cuppa to have another mouthful, and it's empty. So we've only actually consciously enjoyed that first mouthful. So what is that? Well, our minds are made to wander. They'll drift away, and of course our minds don't recognise the difference between what's happening now and what we're thinking about. So if we're recreating past events that perhaps have been stressful, it fires up the amygdala and it starts creating that stress response in our body. If we're thinking forward, leaning forward into all of the things that we have to do, again, it'll cause that stress response. Yet if we're completely present and focusing on what we're doing now, on washing the dishes purely to wash the dishes, to be absorbed in that task of washing the dishes or of drinking the cup of coffee, then we get much more pleasure from it, and we notice so much more. And we prevent ourselves drifting off into that stress response. I've been practicing mindfulness for quite some time now. But I remember when I started, one of my first experiences of it was about the raisin. If somebody said mindfulness, the automatic response was raisin. What's all this about a raisin? And there was an exercise where you put a raisin in your hand and you were invited to consider its texture, its smell, what have you. Well, the first time I did this, I have the raisin in my hand and my mind immediately went to, so what was the difference between a raisin and a sultana then? They come from different fruits, or is it a different process? And where do currants fit in? Because a currant isn't a dried black currant or red currant or white currant. So what are currants? How do they fit with raisins and sultanas? And before I knew it, I was invited to end the exercise, which had been this little sojourn into the world of raisins, sultanas and currants for me. Yet every time I practiced, just following my breath for a few moments, I was starting to get better at it. And that's what I love about mindfulness, is that you can't get it wrong. And it's one of the myths, I think, around this, that it's about emptying your mind. But it's not. And I'm not altogether sure we can do that. Mindfulness is just about noticing what's happening inside and around you. And if your mind wanders, which it will, because it's meant to, you'll notice that and you'll just gently bring your mind back to the breath. So every time you notice it, you are practicing mindfulness, you are being present. So you can't get it wrong. It's wonderful to try something new that you can't get wrong. Fantastic. The other thing about it is that it's not about being happy all the time. Let's face it, if we walked around being really happy all the time, I think it would be a little bit scary for anybody around us. It's about just noticing what's going on, noticing any emotions. I'm also asked as well, can I use music when I do a mindful meditation? And I guess the answer to that is, I suppose it's yes and no. If you're using music as a distraction, then that's not helping you develop your mindfulness, your presence in the moment. But if you're using music to be completely present within that music and that sound, then yes. So perhaps not the most helpful of answers. So how do you start? Well, there's lots of different apps out there and different exercises. I always recommend just starting with a nice 3-minute breathing meditation, just noticing your breath. You might even want to just start with 30 seconds. I started doing, picking a task, a habitual task, a routine task each day, and I started with brushing my teeth. And I particularly chose that one because that was a moment where I'd noticed that my inner critic used to come in when I was brushing my teeth as my mind drifted. So I started to brush my teeth to brush my teeth, as opposed to brushing my teeth to have clean teeth. So I just simply noticed the movement, the taste, the feeling in my mouth, all of that. And even if it's just for 30 seconds of that time that you're brushing your teeth, just see how different that process is. You might want to choose having your cuppa. It is really quite blissful being able to take that time and just truly enjoy that cuppa. I even found that being present during certain drinks or foods, and when I was really exploring and being present with the taste, I didn't actually like them. But why have I been eating this all these years? I don't actually like it. And the other thing that's really been quite remarkable for me in using mindfulness is helping me manage pain. When I am standing at the beach filming the waves, I should be able to stand for about 30 seconds before pain kicks in. But when I'm being completely present, I notice a sensation of discomfort, but I'm able to let it pass. So mindfulness became a very key part of my pain management routine. So, if you have any questions about it, please do get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Have a fabulous day and stay present.